So what actually does happen, sidetrack a little bit, I'm not too sure whether do I still, is it necessary for me to actually write out the character, write out the spells, write out the rule books, and find out the core objective of everything. But I think it just provides a lot of silence on that part. That's what I really like about that. So maybe I'll include that in. Okay, we'll see. So now the thing here is like cool. So like in terms of like operations, I in my opinion there's like two of it mainly. There's the operation Z and the operation Y. Operation Z is very much talking about up down approach, and having the up down approach, it just means that the con is this, that you don't really have like the item that you're solved. So say for example, give me the answer for this, give me the answer for this, give me the answer for this. We don't have answer, so like up down, you can't record, you have no answer. If you have no answer, that means you can't start recording. And if you can't record, technically you're not solving. You're basically like jerking off, not doing anything. But say if you are doing down up, it's much more powerful in my opinion, at least. So what you do have is like base case, and base case it just means that you do have answers, and if you do have answers, you can start doing recording. When you can start recording, you can solve more problems, and when you solve more problems, I mean, you can finish solving problems of as such. So that would be really, really fantastic in my opinion, at least. And that is what they are doing. So it feels like this. That, I mean, to get to this guy, there's like one way that you can do it. So I mean, it's just like I just gonna write one to indicate how many ways can I actually from here come to here, right? So, and their term of how they actually use this is memorization. I mean, Operation E is very much talking about memorization, and in our terms, there's very much to talk about like recording. So what we say here is this: and what it actually does record is how many ways can I solve to get to my goal, right? For this case is I want to reach this step of like, I mean, my core objective is this: I want to reach 5 steps. That's what I want to do. And this guy over here is going to tell me how many ways can I get into my answer. Then there's like this one way that I can get to my answer coming from here. So this guy is like the perspective from this guy is that there's one way for me to get to the answer. So we sort of like record, that's like one way. And so like this guy gonna like ask the question. So now my perspective is based off this guy. He's gonna ask like, oh, how can I actually reach to 5? I can either take the 1 step or like say the 2 steps. one step, and then and remember, like, we do the memorization sort of thing. So like it's gonna we're gonna record, say that okay, there's actually one way you can actually do it. So in some sense, like for this guy, it's gonna like get a query of saying that okay, there's one way that I can get, there's one way that I can actually get to the answer from this perspective. And obviously this going this one route is also like one way that I can actually get to the answer. Like this guy can answer his own answer, but this guy is like getting answer from someone else. So it's sort of like 1 plus 1 for this guy's perspective. And what these guys get eventual is 2, which is what we want to get. And for this guy, it's going to start asking the questions. How many ways? Like to me, like Fibonacci, it's very much of like asking. So if you were to actually look, I think Fibonacci, like this mathematical formula term, it's very much like asking how many ways can I reach my goal. That's my feel to it, right? Because I mean, at the end of the day, over here, it's been always been that so far, right? So I mean, we go to this guy's perspective once again, and we already have the answer for this guy, so which is 2. And actually 4, we also have like the answer for this guy already. From this guy's perspective, it was like one way, so we plus the 1, we get the 3. And for this guy's perspective is that we already have a 3, and the 3 we also have like that guy's perspective, which is the 2, and therefore we get like a 5. And this guy's perspective is gonna be this guy, which I already solved, 5, 2, which I already solved, which is 3, and total we got an 8 in total. So yeah, it's just a very recursive sort of thing, and what we are very much abusing is like the memorization part of things, and it just lets us to the answer, if you were to put it that way. So and my main concern is like one is like, how do we actually translate like all these items into what they call to be Fibonacci, and what's the deal with Fibonacci? I'm very very curious about what's the deal with Fibonacci. What's the formula about? Why is it always like plus of like the 2 values of as such? Why can't I plus 3? Why can't I plus 5? Why must it always be plus 2? But from how we actually get inspiration from our playoff series is that we do get like say like the 2 values, because I mean fundamentally in a decision tree, say from this guy's perspective, there's always like these 2 ways, because it's either you can take the 1 step or 2 step fundamentally that actually results you to actually form the Fibonacci, maybe coincidentally to have like these 2 ways for you to get the answer. and one group is like based on your memorization, the other group it's sometimes based on base case. So especially for the bottom parts is that it's very a lot to do with like base case that you can get your answer. This was a base case, and this was also like a base case if you were to see it that way. So over here it was very base case, and for here it was a very much base case, but here it was based on memorization, right? And here is also based on memorization to get 3. 4 was also a memorization from this part. This guy we got it from before. Now if you were to see, as like the starting part was very much based off like base case, but later part is based off memorization. And if I were to actually argue is that that's why we use bottom up. And another thing is that we're constantly using two values, because I mean the decision tree is in the rulebook they only give you like two options. It's either you take one step or two steps, so that's the options. And so when you actually pen it out into the decision tree, it's just like two ways that you can actually do things. And that like coincidentally cause you to actually land into two Fibonacci. Like I mean sure, like fundamentally when you actually talk about things is that you come to here, there's actually a bunch of ways. As you can see, there's a lot of ways that you can actually get into the answer. This also you can get a lot of ways to actually get into your answer. But what Fibonacci does is that it accumulates the steps. So not necessarily say that okay there's only this one way and one way you can actually do things. That's very true for base case, but it's not the same for memorization. And I think memorization is basically the Fibonacci, and Fibonacci is like the accumulation of like your processes, and therefore it seems to you that it's actually doing two steps like a base case, but memorization is the one that actually make it look like a base case. It's like the accumulated version of it. So you have the accumulated plus the accumulated, you get the another accumulated, and another accumulated plus another accumulated, you get another accumulated. So it's this bunch of accumulation in my opinion at least. I mean, we also can like argue on how the brute force can actually fight against it. So my idea is this: like if you were to do brute force, like fine, you can choose to do that. Brute force, what you're gonna do is that okay, I gotta go 1, I gotta go 2, okay, or 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2, and what I realized is this, like, oh damn, there's actually something that I'm solving, but it's exactly the same thing. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna solve the 1 2, I'm gonna run this operation, and if you will see, the spending extra time, and with extra time, extra efficiency, not good for the cooldown. and that's why I fight against like brute force, if you were to ask me. And one more beauty about this whole thing is this, that if you were to actually realize is that you're actually cancelling out all these extra steps. So whatever you see over here, you have sort of like memorized this part. You don't need to do this extra step because you need to do the memorize, so you don't need to do all these steps over here. And similarly, you don't need to do extra steps over here, extra steps over here, all these extra steps over here, because technically you are already solving with this guys over here, and you already eventually got the answer right over here when we were solving from this guy, and you solve this entire tree with the memorization. If you didn't do the memorization, obviously you're gonna need to run through all these items of as such. It's a combination of Fibonacci and the memorization, if you were to ask me. And so with that, everything comes to an end.